Hi, everybody. This is Beth Cooper from Bluebird Studios in Santa Fe, New Mexico on a snowy January day. And I have with me today Christine Swann, who I'm so excited. Hi, Christine.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here and to finally meet you. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I just a quick background on I discovered Christine. I don't even know. Christine, what year did you get Best of Show at IAPS?
I think that was 2013.
Okay.
That
So
was the
she
first
did this
one. Yeah.
remarkable portrait of her son, who was like a little boy. Now he's, how old
Oh,
is
it's in the
he?
background too. There
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
there it is. Yeah, that is. And so, and then I started following your blog, and
Yeah.
then you explained the composition behind that painting. Blew me away, right? And
Yeah.
the way you
Composition's big.
huge, and the way you do it is just remarkable. And then during COVID, I took my first Zoom work on, and if I can figure out how to do it, I'll pull up the picture of the portrait that I painted in her class. And I'm not a portrait painter. That seriously is the only portrait I've ever painted in my life. And when I show it to people, they're just like, "What?" So if you don't think you can paint portraits, um,
You
you're
can. Yeah, you
you're
can, you
wrong.
can. You just got to understand light. Once you understand light, you can paint anything. So, and
Yeah,
you know,
and
we spent a long time in the workshop talking about light and teaching about light. And so that's what we're
totally.
going to do this spring too. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the way you made it easy, where you're not
Mhm.
measuring every little ear thing, you
No,
just made it so simple. And
yeah.
I like that. So, okay, let's talk about the workshop. It is May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's a 3-day workshop,
Yep.
and we'll have live models.
Yep.
Um, and uh, she's just a remarkable teacher. I'm not kidding. The way she understands light, the way she understands composition, the way she understands using color. So, Christine, tell everybody about how you conduct these workshops, what they can expect in the class,
Right.
and just a little bit about why you don't have to be a portrait painter to take this class. Even landscape painters can take this.
Right. Sure, absolutely. So the first day is actually not working with the models, which sounds kind of weird when you're doing a portrait workshop. But the first day we actually work from still lifes. And the whole first day I actually teach about the law of light, and there are 5 rules of light. And so it's really crucial to really know and understand those. So it's much easier to do that with a vase or something with a still life, because then once we understand all those things that we're looking for and we make sure we don't break the law of light while we're drawing or painting those things, then we can take it to something more sophisticated like the model. So then the following 2 days we have the models, and then we almost do the process all over again. So I have a 5 layer process that my paintings go through, and I ask myself really important questions along all those 5 layers. And so I teach people how to do that really quick the first day with still lifes, and then the second and third day we do that then with the model. And so setting up composition, understanding light, making sure we're following all the rules of light. And literally, if you understand light, you can paint anything. I'm not a big believer in the measuring of the head and all that other stuff, because we're all different. And I've been a portrait painter for over 30 years. And some of those measurements and things that we are supposed to know really don't apply, especially when
Right.
you're applying, especially when you're dealing with children. You've got a whole different set of things going on. And so, yeah, I've hardly ever met anyone that falls exactly into all those quote unquote academic measurements. So I approach it a little bit differently, and it's helped a lot of people to be able to be confident enough to paint portraits. So,
Yeah, I
um,
I totally agree with that because I mean, I, I understand. I have a lot of books on measuring. I've watched a lot of videos on
mhm,
it, and I
mhm,
understand the value of it, even in
right.
still life, even in obviously, mountain scenes or whatever.
Right.
But this just made it so simple and so less scary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you understand light and understand what it's telling you about distance and space, you can
Mhm.
paint anything. I mean, it just works out. So, I mean, and I started doing that many years ago. And then I realized, so a lot of artists don't teach like this. So that's
Mhm.
why I've kind of integrated with how I handle the pastel in with how to.
To tease us a little bit, give us
Yeah.
one of your light theories.
Sure. So one of the big things to really think about is the one rule of light that deals with temperature. A lot of people talk about temperature, the colors are hot or cold, that kind of thing. But in physics, and on all the rules in the law of light comes down to physics. Basically, what it is it states that all light has a temperature, whether it's natural light, indoor light, and so that light then even though it might be subtle, it has a kick of color to it. And so when it hits a form and then it creates the void or creates the shadow, people call it the shadow. I like to think of it as a void because that area is a voided area of lack of light. What is, let's say our light source is very warm. It's a very warm day, and we've these beautiful yellow, pinks, and things happening on a child's face. As soon as it breaks past the face and creates that void or that shadow, the temperature now has to change. So it will naturally get cooler. And so the temperature difference is always absolute. So if you have a warm light source, you have a cool shadow or voided area, and vice versa is also true. So if you have a cool light source like natural lighting, you're going to have warmer shadows. And it's where a lot of artists get into a lot of trouble, not understanding that rule because it is just physics and that's the way reality acts. So if you're going to paint reality, you kind of have to understand that temperature rule because photographs will tend to show everything on the lit side is very warm and in the shadows is very warm. And so already that's breaking one of the rules of light. And I see paintings all the time that are done really, really well, portraits that are done really well, but they're breaking physics. They're breaking literally how reality acts. And so if you correct for it, all of a sudden the light is richer and it seems more accurate. And that's why a lot of people talk about when they look at my work, they're like, oh, you understand light. And it's because I do. I really, really follow the rules of light. And when you do that, your paintings just become that much more realistic.
Do you have any examples of the yellow and blue,
Oh, just like the
paint a
temperature
portrait?
changes in the
Yeah.
paint? Yeah. So, well, even if we were talking about my son's painting up there, I don't know, maybe you can call that up for people. My son that was in the bathtub back there, you'll see that everything in the light is very warm and very yellow based, where
Mhm.
and his entire face is in shadow. And it actually has a very green and a very blue based color to it. So the dominance in the shadow is very cool with the blues and the greens versus where the light is hitting his hair and that's
Mhm.
very yellow, very orange, and very warm pinks. So no matter what I'm painting, whether it's his face, it's the towel, whatever, those temperatures have to change. It's the only way to really accurately show light in a
Well,
painting.
question I have, I guess, is so you start the first doing a still life.
Yep.
Okay. And I've got lots of good still life objects. I have a still life closet.
Yeah.
You can
Awesome.
quickly, I'll give everybody a quick overview of the workshop. So it's a 3-day workshop. It was starts May 1st. So excuse me, April 30th, we'll have an icebreaker at 5 p.m. And that's where you just come to the barn, get your space, get your pastel set up, meet
Awesome.
Christine, find the barn. It's very casual. You can bring a bottle of wine if you want, since I can't legally serve alcohol.
Ah,
And then the next day we'll start at 9. Christine will start her workshop at 9 a.m. sharp. But before that, I serve a complimentary continental breakfast with eggs, yogurt, cereal, bagel, everything like that, coffee.
nice.
So I have
Nice.
everybody get there about 8:15, 8:30, especially that first day, maybe 8:15. So
Yeah.
everybody gets their coffee, gets to chat, and then we'll start class. And then that'll be every morning. And then I bring catered lunches into the studio. So we'll have 2 catered lunches on the first and the second. They're $20. It's optional
Nice.
and bring your own lunch. And then the last day, I do a complimentary frito chili pie. And yeah, that's obviously, excuse me, free of charge. And most everybody loves it. May 2nd, we'll start 30 minutes earlier. So we'll start class at 8:30 and end at 3:30 so we don't lose painting time, but we'll head down to Canyon Road and we'll tour some galleries and
Wonderful.
dig around and see what shows are up and maybe we'll go downtown and then we'll go out for a group dinner.
Nice. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun. Everybody has a lot of fun.
That sounds
So,
great.
so tell me about the other 2 days with mom.
So because it is a portrait class, so I'm going to be talking, about the structure of the head and how the light plays into that and how the light affects, the color and everything like that. So we'll be doing a lot of academic lessons along the way, things that'll help you get a decent likeness, things that are really important in the face, that I've learned over the years that, if you nail these certain things, then it'll definitely help with the likeness.
Mhm.
And so it'll be mostly like head and shoulders or, just from the waist up kind of thing.
This workshop, though, is more about light than composition, but you can't really separate the two. I know that. But
Yeah. Yeah, I normally teach a composition class, a workshop as well on the Pythagorean theorem of harmonic divisions of the rectangle, which is a mouthful. But yeah,
Yeah.
we won't have a whole lot of time to get into a lot of that
Yeah.
in the workshop. It's going to be mostly about the power of pastel, how to handle the pastels very differently, and light. And I do not think of pastels as hard or soft. A lot of pastelists, that's how they categorize things.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't make any sense at all. So you will never hear me talk about hard or soft. You will only hear me talk about the power of a brand. And so I will be introducing everyone to how to handle the pastels according to power. And that's a very different way of thinking, but it's again, has helped a lot of artists really be able to control the pastels and not create swampy areas in your paintings that you can't, adjust or correct. And it's also a good way to control the theater of the painting. And yeah, so I go into a lot of that on literally the makeup of the pastel, and it goes way beyond hard and soft. So.
Yeah. So when you say power of pastel, I mean, I
Mhm.
followed your blog for years.
Yeah.
I've seen your articles in Pastel Journal. So when you talk about the power of pastel, some people might be like, what are you talking about? But isn't
Right.
that how intense? I mean, I might not have the lingo right. Is that the
Right.
intensity of the color? I mean, because I saw that you put like a yellow on your hand and it's,
Yes and no. It really doesn't have anything to do with intensity or saturation. It has to do with how the pastels are made. So I liken it to watercolor paint, whereas if your watercolor paint is right out of the tube, you've got pure, let's say, cadmium yellow, versus if I add some water with a brush to that cadmium yellow, now it's diluted color, but it's still cadmium yellow. And if I have a glass of water that's clear and I just add a few drops of cadmium yellow paint to it, I still have only cadmium yellow paint, but it's very, very diluted. And a lot of people don't understand that that's what's happening with pastel. I treat the medium very transparently. Like I work like a watercolorist because I was a watercolorist for many, many years. And so how I work with the medium of pastel is very much like a watercolorist, where I'm always thinking about how diluted is the pigment. And believe it or not, you could have a bright fuchsia stick that looks bright, saturated and very intense, and it could be very diluted, and people don't realize what they're doing is they're trying to get things to pop or make it look lit, and they just can't do it with certain brands because that's not how they're made. And it doesn't mean that any brands are bad or you shouldn't use them. It just means you have to know what they do and what they don't do. And so we go into how to, really control the different brands and how to put them against each other successfully so that you can, create the illusion of light or create the illusion of something very sparkly and very bright because we're surrounding something that's high powered with something that's very low powered. And
Mhm.
again, that doesn't necessarily mean soft or hard. So,
Wow,
yeah.
you really teach in such a different way
Mm,
I mean, I've had, a lot of pastelists here, and
yeah.
this is so different. It really is, and it's cool
Yeah.
because it works. There was that sometimes you can have a cool light and a warm shadow,
Right.
and geez, I never really remembered that you had said that. So, yeah, now I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, and painting by power is really something that I kind of came up with when my kids were little and I couldn't go to workshops and I didn't study, with in a fine art school, and I was just sitting around. I knew I loved pastel and I just wanted to be able to get the medium to do what I wanted it to do. And I think that's a big part of people's frustration when they come to pastel is not being able to control the medium. And if you understand power levels and how to really create successful layering in pastels according to power, it makes the process so much more enjoyable because you're not fighting the medium anymore. And so, yeah, because hard sticks can be powerful and hard sticks can also be very low powered. And very soft, creamy sticks, like you would think you would touch, can be both low and high power. So it's definitely a different way to think than most people. And it's basically because I was sitting in my basement crying over my pastels trying to figure this thing out. So, and this is what I've come up with. So.
Yeah, it's so unique. I mean, nobody else teaches this way, do they? The power of pastel,
No, no, I've never heard any other pastelist actually talk about the
physics
medium this way.
light, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Because
yeah.
like right now, my own pastel painting that I did in your class,
Mhm.
progression of it, because it was just a blast to do that.
And it's good to take the fear out of it. I think a lot of people are fearful about finding the right color for skin tones or anything. And if anything, I push people to understand that there is no right color. There's only the approximation of the beauty that we're seeing in a face or in a landscape or anything. And so if you can get the illusion of that beauty that you're seeing and not worry about having the right color for it, it makes the whole process so much more. To have everyone working on Sennelier Lacarte paper, which is
Okay.
that very And Sinelli has just come out with a wonderful version of their paper, the Lacarte paper, that it's actually now water soluble. So either one of those will work. I've actually used their new
I did
surface.
not know that.
They are, and I've actually taken a sponge to it and everything else. It's pretty good. I think if you don't saturate it too much, it won't buckle. And it's wonderful for washes and things. So people can either work on the traditional Lacarte, or if you want to try out the new one, I would recommend that. It's got a little bit of a heavier tooth to it, but it layers just as well. Of sienna, it's like a brown sienna. It's a very warm tone, which seems to work really well with portraits and kids, especially when we're working really fast with models. If you get anything too light or too dark, then you're always value correcting for that. Whereas this is more of almost a mid value, and it's very warm, and it's just kind of it just naturally lends itself to building a portrait off of that surface. So I would kind of recommend that everyone work on that, because that's definitely what I'll be working on.
Here, as far as the temperature, if people wanted to know what to bring, I would bring some layers because it probably will still be chilly in the morning. I don't want to scare anybody, but we have had snow in late April. When I say have.
Well, yeah, and I do have a list when I send out the material list, where
Mhm.
I recommend certain brands according to power. And so I recommend that everyone have a low, medium, and at least a high powered brand. And
Okay.
so that way, most people will have those three different powers. Sometimes it's interesting to see how many artists will have all high power, all low power, and they don't realize what they're missing. And it's kind of like musical notes on a scale. You don't realize the octaves that you're missing until you kind of start playing with the power levels. But as long as people have some pencils, and I send out in the materials list the mid power brands and then the high power brands. So as long as you have, three brands of pastels, you don't need to bring everything in your studio, in other words, because I'm going to teach you how to take those three levels of powers and shove them against each other and have them work well together without having every brand out
Um, this was a great chat. I'm so excited.
there. Really.
I think that people will just learn so much. Just understanding light is just critical, you
It
know?
is. It's huge. It really is.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. This will be fun.
too, Christine, we're gonna have so much fun, and we'll get out on the highway like you wanted to do the drive out with the Mustang with some music blasting.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely doing that. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you so
All right.
much. It was great
Thanks.
chatting with you.
Thanks. So great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see
Okay.
you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.